Hello everyone. So welcome back to our class. I hope again you all are doing well. So this class will go for the second part, that is the second lecture of the first chapter of computer science, that is computer overview. So before moving to the second part, let's have a revision of what we have done in the first part. So in the first part, we have gone through the basic concepts of a computer, like what is a computer, its definition, like what are the types of computers. We have gone through the devices attached with it. For example, we have gone through the input devices, the output devices. We have also gone through the functioning of computer, like how does it function. And lastly, we have gone through a little bit of what is a hardware, software, and the memory of a computer. I have also shown the conversion of memory of a computer, so you can just check it out. I'll share the link below of the first previous video, and you can just revise once. So today's class, that is today's session, we will study about the second part, that is we'll go for what is an operating system. Now operating system also I have discussed a bit. I have given a brief summary of what is an operating system in one of the videos, so I'll again share the link below. Do check it out. So in operating system, we'll just go for the definition, the basic concepts again, and also the examples and the types of operating system along with its function. And secondly, we will go today for language processors, that is the translator that computer science or computer machine uses for translating any kind of language. Like we know, computer understands only binary language. So we'll go and discuss all about it with the help of definitions, diagrams, and the explanation too. So without any delay, let's move forward and start our class.
So we will go for operating system now. So first we'll go for the definition of operating system. Here we can see it's written, an operating system is a program which acts as an interface between the user and the hardware, that is all computer resources, and controls all other components of the computer system. So by this definition we can understand that operating system is, firstly, it's a program which acts as an interface. Now what is interface? Interface means intermediate, like it acts as a connection between the user and the hardware. So basically we are going to use the computer, so we need an operator which will take our instruction and operate the system, that is operate the computer. So we are the one who gives instruction, and someone has to be there who should process the instruction and give us the required output. So operating system is the one which acts as an interface which takes our instruction and gives us the fruitful output. So it is an interface between the user, that is us, and the hardware of all the computer resources, like whatever computer resources, like whatever hardware is attached with the computer, say it printer or scanner or any other hardware that is attached, and controls all other components of the computer system. That means it not only acts as an interface, but it also controls all other components, like be it hardware or software, whatever components is within the computer or attached with the computer, it controls everything. Next definition we can see that it's written, an operating system or OS, usually called as kernel, is a software installed on a computer hard drive that enables the computer hardware to communicate and operate with the computer software. So here it is stated that operating system is a like software which is also known as kernel, so we can refer it as kernel also, and obviously it's a system software which is installed on the computer's where hard drive. So this is important, you should know this. So it is installed on the computer's hard drive that enables the computer hardware, that means it enables the hardware to communicate and operate with the computer software. So every hardware needs a driver, or it needs a software to operate. So how will this hardware and software communicate with each other? With the help of operating system. So without a computer operating system, a computer and software programs would be useless. So this is the basic definition of operating system. So we'll now go for, you can just take a screenshot or even you can note it down in your copy. So we'll now next move to functions of operating system. So here we have 4 functions of operating system. There are a lot more, but these are the basic 4 functions which an operating system encounters. So let's see. The first function is it provides the instruction to prepare user interface. way to interact with user, whether through typed commands or through graphical symbols. So what does it say? It says it provides instruction. That means uh, it gives instruction. What for? What for? To prepare user interface. That means the interface, like we are the user when we use a software or we use any application, so we have to understand like where to click what. And suppose you are using a MS Word, fine. So in MS Word, what do? You open it, you type something, or you make tables, or insert pictures. You do that sort of stuff, textual stuff or graphical stuff, and then you save that document. And when you're done saving, you close it. So where do you go for save? You go for file, then you go for save as, right? So when you go for file and save as, so how does the computer know that when you click on save, then that particular things should be saved in some particular space where you will browse? Or suppose you're clicking this close button, so how will they don't know that when you click this close button, this application need to be closed? So not only the application itself handles it, but also it is the work of operating system to give instruction to make us the user interface. User interface means whatever we see on the screen, to make it interesting and understandable, user friendly basically, fine. So MS Word is just an example of application, but whatever we see, suppose a desktop or any other thing that we see, that is handled by the operating system. So this is the way to interact with the user, that is us, through typed commands, that is for example keyboard, and through graphical symbols, for example mouse. Or you can say that when you have a phone, touchscreen phone, so we touch the screen and we move like this, right? So this is the way you can give graphical symbols. So the next point says it loads necessary programs into the memory which are required for proper computer functioning. So apart from providing instruction, what else does it do? It loads necessary programs. That means whatever programs are needed for us, for user, it loads those programs. Where does it load? Into the memory. So this is also important. You have to understand it loads into the memory which are required for proper computer functioning. So obviously if with the program, the computer is programmed, right? So if you don't load the necessary program, how is the computer even going to work? So just remember this thing, that it loads necessary program into the memory, so which is required for proper computer functioning. Third point we have coordinates how the programs work with the CPU, keyboard, mouse, printer and other hardware, as well as with other softwares. So coordinates, what does coordinate mean? Coordinate means basically to organize. All right, so it means to organize. So what does it organize? It organizes the programs. Like first of all, it organizes the program and tells it how should this programs work with the hardwares and softwares. The hardwares like CPU, keyboard, mouse, printer and all the other softwares, be it utility software or application software, any kind of software. So it tells and organizes the program how to work with softwares and hardwares. The last function that we have is it manages the way information is stored on and retrieved from disk. So see here, the word it says manages. So apart from providing instruction, loading the program, organizing, it also manages. What does it manage? It manages the way, that means how should the information be stored, that means saved and retrieved from the disk. So retrieve means to get. So suppose you have stored something today, you have saved something today, and the next day when you open your computer and you want the same document, so you will get it where? From the disk. So this is the way it manages that information should be stored, how should it stored, where should it stored, and when we want it back, so how do we retrieve it? Fine. So these are some of the important functions of operating system. So please note it down, or else like the previous one you can take a screenshot of it. Okay, so next we'll move on, role of operating system or OS. So see here, this is the basic structure of OS that is helpful for exams also. If you give diagrams, it's more important and it's more practical, fine. So here what do you see? First of all you see user, then you see application, operating system, and finally you see hardware. So what happens here in this diagram, the user when it sends instruction, Where does it sense? Obviously it will use an application. For example, you're using Photoshop, so obviously you will use an application, or for example you are using a media player, or suppose you're writing a program for C++, so you need softwares, right? So these are application softwares. So user interacts with application. What does the application or application software do? It interacts with the operating system. That means it's asked the operating system to for the instruction to move whatever the user has given. So user interacts with application, our application software, and application software interacts with operating system, and operating system interacts with hardware. Fine. So this is the way the input is gone, and how do we get the output? Similarly, the hardware then sends the required result or output to the operating system. Operating system again interacts with application and finally displays to the user. That is, the output is displayed to the user. So this is the way how the request is sent, and this is the way how the output is received to the user. So just remember the steps. First is user, second is application, third is operating system, and last is hardware, or you can also say CPU. Fine. Okay. So you can note it down. Again, you can draw the diagram as well. Now we'll come again to the types of operating system or OS. So there are various types of OS. So the first one is single user. So with the help with the name you can understand single user, that means one user at a time. So going through the definition, we can see a single user operating system is a type of system that has been developed and designed to use on a computer. It can be used on a similar device and it only has one user at a time. So a single user operating system is a kind of operating system that has been developed and designed to use for a computer, for a normal computer like the one you use, desktop or laptop. So that is a normal computer which one user can use at one time. So these are basically used on similar devices, like similar kind of devices which has one user of or operating system, and it has only like one user at a time. So examples you can see MS-DOS, Windows, Linux. So we use Windows, we use Linux. Now for Windows and Linux, obviously multi-user can be provided, but single user can also be done. You can just imagine a normal desktop or a normal laptop, that is single user. Next, moving through multi-user OS. So we can see multi-user operating system or OS is one that can be used by more than one person at a time while running on a single machine. So if you see the diagram also, you can understand that it's a multi-user, like multiple user can use this OS or operating system, which is run on a single machine. Okay, so here just remember one thing, that more than one person at a time can run it, where on a single machine. So this is one OS installed in the CPU and more than one user are able to use it. So we can see again, using multi-user operating system, we can perform multiple tasks at a time. That is, we can run more than one program at a time. Obviously it's possible, suppose this user is using MS Word, then this user is using Photoshop, this is using suppose WhatsApp, and that person is using suppose Facebook. So every user, different user is using different application or program. So that is why, but where is the OS? The OS is in one single machine, but more than one users are using it, correct? So that's why it's possible that in multi-user we can run more than one program at a time. So example, like we can edit a Word document while browsing the internet, correct? We can suppose this person is not only using MS Word but also browsing the internet. Now this person is again using Photoshop, plus he is scrolling Facebook at like the same time. So no matter being on the single OS, but they can use multiple programs at one time. So we have now batch operating system. So with the help of the name, you can understand that batch is actually group, right? So batch operating system is basically one of the most important type of operating system. So the user who uses batch operating system, actually they do not interact with the computer directly. So this is very important. Rest whatever we have seen, like single user or multi-user, we have interacted with the computer directly, but here in batch OS we do not interact with the computer directly. So in this operator, what happens, we need an operator which takes similar jobs that have similar requirements and groups them into batches. So here what happens, that an operator is needed where similar jobs, like same kind of request or same kind of application with same requirements, are grouped into batches. For example, the least example that I can give you is, in cafes or computer cafes, you can see that there are different devices and they are attached with only one printer. So they don't have different printer for different, each printer for each device. There is only one printer which are connected with all the other devices. So the request for printing is a similar kind of request that is sent. So this is a simple example that I can give you, where similar jobs with similar requirements are possible. So they are grouped into batches, and it is the responsibility of the operator to sort jobs with similar needs. That means to arrange the jobs with similar kind of needs. So here you can see in the diagram. So here this is job 1, job 2 and job 3. So they are different jobs, and so as they are different, so they have different batches. So this is different job, so here another batch is made. So the operating system makes the batch and it sends to the hardware or the CPU. In this diagram you can see that there is Word and email and web browser. So these are similar kind of jobs which are sent to the operating system, and these are made in one single batch and it is sent to the CPU. So with this diagram you can understand that how the grouping of the batches are made for different requirements or different jobs. Different batches are made, and for similar jobs only one batch is made and sent to the CPU. So for the this is a batch operating system. So next we move for multiprocessing operating system. So in multiprocessing operating system, with the name see multiprocessing, that multiple processings are possible. So it is one which has two or more central processing units. That means it has more than one CPU, so more than one central processing units to control the function of the computer. So see, in multiple CPUs are interconnected so that a job can be divided among them for faster execution. When a job finishes, results from all CPUs are collected and compiled to give the final output. That means what? First of all, multiple CPUs are used for multiple processing. So CPU is itself a central processing unit, right? So multiple process means multiple CPUs. Just remember like that. And also you can see multiple CPUs are connected so that a job can be divided. That means one single job is divided among all the CPUs that are connected for faster execution. Now see, suppose a job is there and one CPU is there. So what is the time required for this to execute? It will be much more if there is only one CPU. But if you have more than one CPU for a single job and the job is divided, like here is a CPU, then here is a CPU, like that. So if you have more than one CPUs for a single job which is divided, then the execution will be faster. Say for example, there is a job, for example, and with this job 3 CPUs are connected. Suppose CPU 1, CPU 2 and CPU 3. Fine. So what happens for this particular job? These 3 CPUs are connected, right? So like when they are executed, like they are divided and these 3 CPUs execute the job. So when the job finishes, like that is executed, the result from all the CPU are collected. That means whatever result are there from the each CPU, they are collected. But suppose from CPU 1 the result is connected, then CPU 2 the result is connected, and again from CPU 3 the result is connected. So finally the result is collected from all the CPUs and compiled to give the final output. So in the diagram you can see there are lot of CPUs till CPU 4 example. So all the CPUs, the jobs are divided, and when the execution parts take place, see here, this is data 1, data 2, data 3, data 4. So what happens? The result from all these CPUs, they are collected into the memory. So in the memory the result is collected from each CPU, and finally the output is provided. So that's why it is said that the jobs that are divided among for faster execution correct, and when a job finishes, result from all the CPUs are collected, that is here the collection is done in the memory, and compiled to give the final output. So in simple terms, the job is divided in different CPUs for the processing, and once the processing is done, from each CPU the result is collected from each CPU, and finally the output is provided. So examples, you can see Unix operating system, that is a most widely used operating system for multiprocessing operating system. So I hope you have understood what is operating system and the different types, and also the functions, and how are the types like defined with the help of the diagrams. You can understand, I hope. So now we'll move forward for language processor. So coming to the topic language processor. It's a processor that actually process the languages. That means, for example, computer, it understands only binary language, that is 0 and 1. We know this. 0 is for off and 1 is for on. We know this, right? So computer understands only binary language. For writing programs into a computer, we basically use high level languages. High level languages means, for example, we have C++, we have Java. So we use all these programming languages, right? So computer doesn't understand high level language or even assembly language. So it understands only machine language, that is 0 and 1. So this language processor is basically a translator which translates high level language to machine language. So we'll go for the types of language processors, and also we'll go for the definition. So coming to the definition, we can see language processor is a special translator system used to turn a program written in high level language, which we call source code, into machine language, which we call object program or object code. So this is important. First of all, you have to understand that what is a language processor. A language processor is a special translator system. This is important, you have to understand this. It translates basically. What does it translate? So it translates the program that is written in high level language, for example C++, Java, which we call source code. So we call the high level language as source code, and they are translated into machine language. Machine language means, like I have already said, it's 0 and 1, which we called object program. This is we called object program, or we called object code. So it translates basically from the source code to object program or object code. So you have to remember, first of all, three things: that it's a translator system. Secondly, it translates what? High level language programs to machine language, and the high level language we called it as source code, and the machine language which is translated, we called it object program or object code. So after the definition, we have the types of language processor. So there are basically three types of language processor. One is the assembler, interpreter, and compiler. So let's go for the definition, and the let's have a brief discussion of what these translators are. So here we have assembler. So assembler is like it's actually translate assembly language to machine language. So let's see what's written here. So most assembly language are very similar to machine code. Machine code means machine language, but they are not exactly machine language, they are just similar to it, which is why they are specific to a computer architecture or operating system. But instead of using binary numbers means 0 1, so any combination of binary numbers, for example 0 1 1 0, or you can say 1 0 1 1 1, like that, any combination of it, they are binary numbers. So in order to describe an instruction, it uses mnemonic symbols. That means assembly language uses mnemonic symbols. For example, add 5, 9. So here see, add is basically of alphabets, and 5 9 are numbers. So these are mnemonic codes where you consist of numbers as well as letters. So they use mnemonic codes like add, mul, mux, sub, div, move, and so on. So these are some mnemonic codes. So the codes are written, for example, like this, like add a comma b, and for example store, str for store, c. So that means ab will be added and the result will be stored in c. So these kinds of mnemonic codes are used in assembly language. So for the translation of these mnemonic codes or assembly language into machine language, we use assembler. So assemblers are used to convert assembly language code into machine code. So like we have said that high level or like assembly language, they are known as source code. With the help of assembler, they are translated to object code or machine language. Next, coming to interpreter, we have an interpreter is a translator computer program that repeatedly reads instruction one at a time and translate them to machine code. Now the work of interpreter is also similar. It translates high level language to machine language, correct? But what difference is here? Difference is it reads instruction one at a time. That means suppose you have written a program of 10 lines. Suppose 10 lines are there. So you have written a program. So what interpreter does, it doesn't it doesn't translate whole program at one time. What does it does, it translates the first sentence or first statement, and it will see if any error is there or not. Fine. So if there is any error, then what we do, it will send us a message. It will send us that some error is there, we need to correct it, and again we need to interpret it. So that's why it said that it repeatedly reads instruction. So what happens when you have these line numbers of programs, or we have written programs of these numbers, and suppose this instruction is correct, the first statement is correct, no errors are there, it will go for the second statement. Suppose second statement is also correct, no errors are there, it will keep moving on. So suppose in the fourth statement it encounters an error, so it will stop there. That means it will not interpret the other part or other statement. We need to correct this, we need to get off the error, and then only we have to again interpret it from the starting, and then it will interpret and translate them into machine language. So it takes a lot of time for interpreter, since it converts and executes the instruction line by line. So examples of interpreted languages are Perl, Python, MATLAB, and so on. So this is the diagram, high level language. Here is the interpreter, and it translates to machine language. Next we come to compiler. Now see, compiler is basically mostly used in C++ programming. So what is a compiler? It's a computer software that translates or compiles source code, that is high level language, written in a high level language, for example C++ programming, into a set of machine language instruction that can be understood by a digital computer CPU. The same definition is here, that it translates high level to machine language, correct? Now what is the difference? Between this is and interpreter is, interpreter, remember here the translation is done line by line, but what happens in compiler, the translation is not done line wise. Here the compiler is done in one go, like the compilation is done in one go. Like suppose this is the program written in suppose 5 to 6 lines, so at one go it will compile it, and at one go it will show you if there are any errors. Suppose there are 3 errors, so at one time only it will show that there are 3 errors along with the line numbers. That means line number means, suppose this is first line, so it's number 1 line, right? This is second, so number 2, this is third, so number 3, like that you have line numbers. So it will not only show the error, but it will also show in which line you have the error. So this is the difference between compiler and interpreter, that interpreter translates line wise, line by line, and compiler translates everything at one go. So the act of translating source code into machine object code is called a compilation. It converts the entire high level language in one go and reports all the errors of the program along with the line number. So see, high level language, compiler, low level language, and this is the compilation error, which is shown at like one time and not repeatedly.
Now I'm sure you know what an operating system is, what are its types, what are its function. So you have some definitions along with diagrams in the video that I have explained. So you can just write it down in your copy and draw the diagrams as well. So we now know what is an operating system, what are its function, right? So you can also remember that operating system is also referred as kernel. And also we have the types of operating system, like we have discussed: single user, multi-user, batch of processing, multi-processing. So these are the different types of operating system. Not only this, you have lot other operating system, but these 4 are the main and basic operating system that are in trend, that people are using. So along with that, we have studied about language processors. So I have given you the definition and diagrams as well, so you can just write it down from there. Also, the language processor, you know now that they translate high level language to machine language. And sometimes what happens in compiler, if I can just recall, compilers sometimes they don't just directly convert high level language to machine language. Sometimes what happens, the program that is written in high level language, they are translated to assembly language, and the assembler again translates them to machine language. So most of the compilers doesn't do the second part which I've explained, the like translating from high level to assembly language, again assembler will translate to machine language, but some compilers does the task. So these are the explanation for the two topics that we have studied today. Please study and note down the notes and the diagrams. So we'll see in the next class. If you have any doubt, you can just write in the comment box, and we'll meet in the next class with the third lecture of the chapter Computer Overview. Thank you so much and have a nice day.